Before I can show you the playthroughs of Arkham Horror the Living Card Game, I've got to tell you how to play. So this is going to be a quick demonstration. I'm not going to go over how I actually set the game up. I'll probably go through a full instructional video later on and maybe replace this one at the time. But for right now, I'm just going to tell you that this is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. I've only played it by myself, so I don't know how it plays with more players at this point. The base game will only let you play 1 or 2 players. There are scenarios that you can go through. There are different investigators that you can be. Basically, you're trying to solve some mysteries, figure out some things that are going on because, as the Cthulhu mythos goes, something horrible is going to happen, and you are in control of the few people that have the potential to stop it. First thing you want to do is you want to pick a scenario, which in this case is going to be The Gathering. I'm going through the campaign of the base game, which has 3 different scenarios in order, The Gathering being the first one. You pick an investigator. There are 5 different ones to choose from. And you put together your starting hand, your deck of cards that are going to be helpful for you, and a deck of treachery cards, which are nasty things that the game is going to do back at you to encourage you to move forward and progress and try to get through this, because you have a bit of a ticker time going on. The general object of the game is to try to get through the act before the game progresses through the agenda. There are a certain number of acts that you'll have to get through. In this case, there are 3 acts. The first one would already have happened by the time this board setup occurs. But when you get through an act, you'll flip it over, you will do what's on the back of that, and then you'll go through the next act. And it will have a certain condition that you will have to get through. And once you get there, you'll get through that act and do what's on the back of that, and then progress to the third. When you get through the final act, the game, that scenario, will resolve in some way. It may resolve before that, but at the end of your third act, or at the end of your final act, it will resolve in some way. At the same time, the agenda is going to be progressing. Every turn, there's going to be a marker thrown on this, which progresses it forward. When it gets to its capacity, which for this agenda is 3, you turn that over, and there's going to be a bad thing that's going to happen. Then you move on to the next agenda. If that fills up, that's also going to complete and move you to the third agenda, whatever your final agenda is. If that occurs, your final agenda occurs before you can get through all of your acts, the game is also going to finish in some way. Usually, if this goes through, it's going to be really bad for you. If you get to the end of your act, it's probably going to be good for you. How you go about doing that is moving your character through different locations and searching for clues. When you find those clues, you submit those clues toward the act. The act has a certain number of clues per investigator in the game. So if I'm playing a 1-player game, I need 3 clues to get through this. If it's a 2-player game, we'd actually need 6 combined from all the investigators to fulfill that and progress to the next act. So how you move is going from location to location. Each location card has a symbol in the upper left, and at the bottom there are different symbols to tell you what that location is connected to. So here in the hallway, I can go to blue triangle, which is this room. I can go to the brown plus down here, or I can go to the green diamond here. Unfortunately, due to the text on this card, I can't actually go here right now. But on an investigator's turn, you're going to get 3 actions. One of the actions you can do is move. When you move to a new location, one that's undiscovered by this little keyhole right here, you're going to flip that over and reveal that location. You're also going to add whatever clue tokens are in that area. For this card, it's 2 clue tokens per investigator, which if I was by myself, I'd put 2 clue tokens up there in the attic. There also might be something that happens right away, like in this case. Forced after you enter the attic, take a horror. That means my character has to take a sanity loss just by walking into the attic and being scared about what's going to happen here. Each investigator has a maximum number of health and sanity. If you take your maximum value, that character is out for that scenario. And if all the investigators playing in a certain scenario get taken out, that also brings about the end of that scenario. So it's probably not going to be a good one for you, but it will in fact end at some point. Another action that you can do is to draw either a resource, one single resource, or draw one card from your investigator deck. Each investigator starts with 5 resources and 5 cards in their hand. These are what you use to try to help you do things. You need the resources in order to play cards. Another action which you can do, which is playing a card. If you play a card, you will pay the number of resources equal to the cost in the upper left, but then you will have access to that resource and what it grants you to do later on. Because another one of the possibilities is to actually activate the actions on an asset that you have. As one action, I could choose to fight, and since I have the knife, I would actually get +1 to that attack. There will be times when there will be monsters out, and when they are out there, you might have to fight them. Fighting a monster is another action. You can choose to fight it. In this case, if I had the knife, instead of just choosing to fight it simply, I would probably choose to do the action on the card, which gives me a little better than just a regular fight, which normally would do 1 damage. In this case, if I use the action on my card, I would get +1 to my strength for this attack. Right now, my strength is a 1. The enemy's strength is a 1. It has 1 health, and it has 3 speed. I could either fight it, or I could try to evade it. If I fight, I have to go against its strength value. If I evade it, I have to go against its dexterity or reflex value. Now, anytime you have a test like this, either when you're trying to fight something here or when you're trying to find a clue token up here, you're doing a test. It's your value against a certain value involved in the game. Right now, if Wendy is using her knife, I have an attack value of 2 against its attack value of 1. If this was all that would be involved, I would be winning by 1 and I would hit the rat and do a damage and kill it. But it's not. There is a bag full of handy little tokens. Not this bag, this is my own personal one. You'll have to find your own special bag or a cup or whatever it is you want to put things in. And every time you have a test like this, you have to draw a token from this bag. Sometimes it can be a number like this one, which in this case would be just perfect for me. I have 2 in my attack versus its 1, but with this modifier, that takes 1 away from me. So now I only have 1, but it's 1 versus 1, and investigators win ties. I would win the encounter, I would hit the rat for 1, it only has 1 health, it would die, and it would be out of the room, and I'd be free to go do whatever else that I want to. There are certain special tokens in here that do interesting things depending on the rules of your character and what scenario you've decided to play and how difficult you've decided to play. In the easy and standard side, the tokens do one thing. On the hard and expert side, they do another, which is far, far more difficult. But each time you do something, you're going to reach in that bag and pull one of these things out, which is going to modify what you do in normally a very bad way. If you were investigating, I would be using my knowledge of a 3 versus the room's value, which is called the shroud value. In the attic, that's a 1. Down here in the cellar, that bumps up to a 4. Much more difficult to go after things down there. But the cards in your hand will help you to do certain things. You might have an asset like this flashlight, which lowers the shroud in a room. And each card, instead of playing it for its actual advantage that you get in the text below, you can discard any of these cards during a test to give you a bonus based on these little tick marks on the side. You don't have to pay the resources for it, but you're also not going to get the advantage of the card itself. You're only going to get that little bonus. So if you wanted to test your investigation down here in the cellar and you only have an investigation of 3, discarding a card to help you can bump that up to a 5. But at the end, whether I'm successful or not after drawing my lovely little token, something really bad happened. But regardless of whether I succeed or not, that card has been used up. I don't have it left over in my hand. You can use your cards and your resources in order to do things, get your clues and fight bad things. And at the end of your investigator turn, then the board is actually going to happen. Monsters that are there would attack you and they would do damage if you hadn't fought them. You can also choose to evade a monster who's engaged with you, and if you invade him, you'll actually turn it sideways. Then when it comes to the monster's turn, it won't attack you. You ran around behind it, messed with it enough so that it doesn't actually get an attack on you. It's another handy option there. But after investigators have gone, monsters are going to do their thing. And if there aren't any there, you have a happy time. If they are there, they're going to hit you. Or, depending on where they are, they might move to your location. If they move to your location, they're probably going to attack you right away unless there's something crazy going on. Then at the end of that, then you get a little bit of upkeep for the investigators. It's the end of the turn at that point. Each investigator gets to draw an additional card and gain one more resource. Then you proceed to the beginning of the actual turn, which starts with Mythos. Except for the very first turn of the game, there's not a Mythos phase in the first turn of the game. Normally with the Mythos phase, the first thing is one Doom token gets added to the agenda to kind of progress the game along and make it more difficult for you. Then each investigator has to draw one card from the Mythos deck and resolve it. They're always going to be something bad. It might be a monster, it might be some weakness, it could be some weird event like this, which when it comes out, it has a revelation effect. That's something that happens right away. I have to test my dexterity, and for each point that I'm below, that I fail by, I take a damage. I could turn that over. This is auto-fail as if I had an ability of 0, which means I would fail this by 3, and I would have to take 3 damage for failing that. There's always a tentacle in there, and there's always the chance you're going to pull it at the worst opportune time, and your people are going to die. So you keep going through the game this way until either you get through this, or the game gets through that, or your people get taken out. Then, depending on what happened, you consult your actual campaign guide, and it will tell you whether, how much you succeed or fail by, and what lingering conditions there might be going on through the campaign. So you probably have an idea, at least, of how this game plays, enough for you to watch me go through this and humiliate myself horribly. Because my first time playing this game, I played without looking at any of the cards and without knowing what was coming at me. And it kind of showed. But I'll keep playing and keep posting things, and hope you enjoy it. Here it is.